So sit back, grab a cup of your favorite brew, put your feet up. We're going to Detroit. Alright folks, I think we got something special today. Detroit. Boy, did I say we got something special every day? I have to look back to my videos. I think I say that every time. But today, today we got some Detroit Bold. Now I have had Detroit Bold before. They have a few different roasts. This particular one here is the Detroit Bold French roast. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Detroit Bold. It is a small operation out of Detroit. Let me just find it here. Started by A.J. O'Neill. Now he started out as having a cafe called AJ's Music Cafe in Ferndale. He since had bigger plans and wanted to make the Motor City the Mocha City. Also says here that they've been roasting in the shadows of the plants, meaning the automotive plants, since 1914. They've been around a long time. If you would like some Detroit Bold, and again this is not a sponsored ad, it is available on Amazon or DetroitBoldCoffee.com. Again, not a sponsored ad. Let's grind some of this up. That smells real good. Now that I've made a mess, don't want to waste it, eh? You just smell the aroma coming out of this jar. Alright, as usual we're going to try this black, then we're going to try it with milk. Today I'm going to change things up a little bit. I've already let you know just how silly us Canadians can be, or some of the strange things here in Canada. Today, since we're doing Detroit Bold, we're going to talk about Detroit. And before we go any further, I love Detroit. I actually love going to Detroit every time. We go there probably 3 or 4 times a month just to shop or have something to eat or do whatever. That's an awesome city. Having said that, we're going to talk about funny things about Detroit. Okay, Detroit was the first city in the United States to pave a road, making it easier for cars to travel from place to place. The first mile of concrete in the United States was located in Detroit, and it was from Woodward Ave between 6 Mile and 7 Mile. That's an interesting fact. During the Prohibition era, I believe that'd be in the 1920s, Detroit was an ideal place to smuggle and hide liquor. With its close proximity to Canada, taking the highway from Detroit was a piece of cake. The city was actually responsible for smuggling most of the alcohol in the United States. How many of you knew that? Detroit is the home of the oldest surviving ginger ale brand in the United States. What brand is that, should you say? That'd be Verner's. This one I did know. The first half I knew. Detroit is the birthplace of Motown and techno. I didn't know about techno, but I did know about Motown. Motown was started by a man named Berry Gordy. And he started that in the late 50s. Didn't know that. Some of the popular Motown musicians, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, and Mary Wells. I did know, do you know, that Detroit has an awesome theater district with a Fox Theater. I've not been there, but I've been by there. And Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream actually had its first debut in Detroit. I didn't know that either. The salt mines underneath Detroit. Did you know there were salt mines under Detroit? I did. A company I used to work for used to run deliveries to the salt mines, but it was on the Canadian side. It was called Windsor Salt. And they have miles and miles of tunnels underneath the Windsor, Detroit River, and Detroit, where they mine the salt. Here's one I would have never thought of. Detroit has more registered bowlers than any other city. On any given day, it is safe to assume that there are more balls being carefully tossed down alleys in Detroit than anywhere else in the country. Oh, here's one, and I've been to a few. Number 10, I'm not sure if I'm at 10 or 9, I'm not going by the numbers here. There are more than 136 bars and restaurants in Detroit. I've been to a few restaurants in Detroit. I'm going to tell you, I've never had a bad meal. They have different neighborhoods. There's Greek Town, Mexican Town, all kinds of places, and they've got all kinds of food. But there's just a few facts about Detroit. Let's try the coffee. Again, we have the Detroit Bold French Roast. Not a whole lot on the smell. It's not too bad for a black French roast. That's a little too much. Very drinkable with the milk in it. I thought it would have been a lot stronger, but it's not. Of course, I'm coming off the caribou and also coming off the has-beens, which was very, very dark. I mean, very dark and very strong, which I like. The French roast I thought would have been a little stronger, but definitely a drinkable coffee. I could drink that in the evening. This wouldn't be my morning coffee, this would be my evening coffee. So you learned a little bit about Detroit Bold, learned a little bit about Detroit. I think I'm going to change it up a little. From now on, when I feature a coffee, the city that it comes from, or the state that it comes from, or the province that it comes from, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Anyway, that's all I got for today's video, and just remember, the best way to drink coffee is the way you like to drink it. Until the next one, I'll see you.